In my groups, we teach each other skills that help us get better in our dynamics with other people. So one of them that we talked about was the stop technique. And I taught it to a few folks last night in group, and they had very different situations going on. But the reason why I wanted to teach the stop to you was because I feel like there's these times in the day or in life or when you're struggling, or even when you don't think you're struggling, that you're spacing out. And you might be spacing out in a negative headspace about complaints or worries that you have. Usually it's negative, right? We don't really like work on things that are, hey, we're doing a lot of positive self-talk, so we need to really hone that in. No, it's the negative self-talk and the bumping into dissociation and not being able to be productive and present that we have to work on, right? So the stop technique is that you would come into a state of a stoma, which is something similar to, when you walk into a kitchen and you're like, why am I here? What am I thinking about? Why can't I keep my mind straight on a thought? It's just going all over the place. Well, that's kind of a stoma. It's not a productive place that the mind goes through. But our minds are so powerful, right? They're so powerful. So sometimes if you give yourself a positive message, your mind believes it. If you give yourself a negative message, your mind believes it. So what if we did this when we were having sort of a negative dive in our worlds where we're starting to think about everything as irritating and negative and we're not that great and we're not enough and we're always behind the times or just have these like unimaginable characteristics that people are noticing. Whatever you do that makes you feel self-conscious or in comparison to another person is unhealthy, because we all are driven in some ways by fear. So we have to face the fear from time to time to encourage ourselves to think about things and reframe things a different way. So here's what it is. I'll give you an example. So yesterday, have you ever had one of those days where you're trying to get through to customer service, whether it's your insurance company or trying to make an appointment or trying to correct an order that was sent to you, whatever it might be, and it just doesn't go well? You have negative interactions, not only with your phone and pressing buttons to get to number one, but you don't have really positive conversations with the customer service people. When I get into this headspace, I feel like it keeps going and I really need to stop because I know and believe that my energy draws things to me, either positive or negative things. So I really like to clear my energy and say to myself, like, take a break, do something else, and don't get into that negative spiral. Here's a faster way to do it. You would stop, you would stand up, and I'm not going to do that because I'll be out of the screen. You stand up and you actually embody a positive feeling about yourself, and you do it with like a fist pump. So you would say something like, the way I was taught it is the person would say like, I'm magnificent, but I would say, I'm okay, you can do this, this is fine, you'll get through this, you're very capable, those kinds of affirming thoughts. And you say that really lively in your whole body, and then you just tap yourself in so that information kind of goes into your body and you kind of relax. This is the relaxing tap. And so when we have these times where we're really encumbered by negative self-talk, we need to get out of that to be more productive. So try it. Think of a time, or even imagine a time where you're going to be in a situation where you're going to be frustrated, and see if you can stop that flood of feelings and thoughts. Remind yourself of something powerful about yourself and then tap it in. And you might need to do it a few times because that negative thinking might just seep back in really quickly. So there's something to try. In my group, people had this kind of feedback, so I wanted to share it with you. They thought like, well, what if it's grandiose thinking and I'm just giving myself grandiose thinking like, I am magnificent. And I really think that's lame thing to say to myself. Well, you want to say something that you actually believe. I think things like, you're doing fine, you have the capacity, you're okay, things are going to get better, shake this off. those kinds of positive directives help me. So whatever you need to say that you can actually hold on to, you don't have to make it up or try to make it too big that you can't digest it or metabolize it. There's another thing that's a psychological term called cognitive dissociation, which we actually put different meanings to things. So sometimes what we end up doing is comparing ourselves to other people, and that definitely leads to low self-esteem if you compare yourself. So you should be actually comparing yourself to yourself. Like, good for you, you learned that skill, you're trying to do that job, or hey, you got to learn that skill so that you'll be able to do that more effectively and it won't stop you. And then the comparison to other people is because, wow, I see that other person has an awesome attribute and I really am curious about it. And I see how helpful that is for them to have that in their lives. And it could be, I don't know, anything that they know how to drive a stick shift or something like that. And you're like, that's a really great way of handling things. Or that's a really good money making idea. Or I'm happy for them that they figured that out. And that gives me some inspiration myself. So comparison can't be like comparing and it makes you feel bad. It might be comparing because you think that person really figured something out and you want to figure it out too, or just be exposed to it. So those are good ideas. But a lot of times what we do in cognitive dissociation is we actually make stuff up in our heads, a narrative, a story about how things are going to be, or we even think about things like, um, you know, this is what people are thinking about me. And so I just walk in a room and think, oh my God, all these people are talking about me or thinking about this aspect. So I heard this recently and I love this story as well. And this story was one of the people that I'm training with at the moment noticed in a training that she was speaking at that there was an age gap, and there was an older person in the group that wasn't being connected to the younger people in the group, and so there was distance. And the person I'm working with, my colleague, said, "Oh," she went up and she said, sort of asked this like really awkward question, like, "Does that bother you that there's a sort of a distance because of the age difference?" And the woman said, "Yeah, it used to bother me a lot." And this is the point of cognitive dissociation that I want to point out to you. It used to bother me a lot, but I actually recognize it. And when I walk into a space and I feel like, oh, people aren't really acknowledging me or including me in conversations, instead of taking it personally, I just say, oh, well. And it's almost like, people say this term, like, it is what it is, right? Or that's fine, or that's not hurting me, but she didn't go into making a story about how separate she was and unacceptable she was, or that she might have to leave. She actually just went into, oh, well. And I imagine that she just made herself comfortable in whatever space she was in. And in a way, like, part of what we're all practicing is to be comfortable in whatever space we're in or whatever situation we're in, and to really rely on ourselves for fortitude, right? For coping mechanisms, for confidence, for resilience. And not that you put yourself into really challenging situations, but socializing and socially, we get into challenging situations. So to just pace yourself and to know you don't have to make up a story, and you can stop and remind yourself of your attributes, because that will help you create a different space for yourself all around you, 360. So take the gems from that talk. And if you have any questions, don't hesitate to contact me. Bye for now.